All right, I would like to welcome everybody to our December 4th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the November 6th minutes. Do I have any corrections or concerns or changes? If not, I will accept a motion.
The one thing, Mr. Chair, I would ask is on IR 2303, there's talking down at the bottom, it's talking about a Grady pond, and we've just got a typo in there. It's listed as Gritty. I want to put it down as Grady.
All right.
And that could have been my horrible accent, too, when I was saying it, so my apologies.
Thank you.
Well, it is kind of gritty also.
Well, it is Gritty, too, yeah.
The gritty Grady pond
There you go.
correction.
Yeah,
Anything else?
no, sir.
All right, if not, I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I've got a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second to approve the minutes with one change. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. First item on the agenda, UR 2316.
Okay. This is a standard utility review. It is 38,563 linear feet. This is kind of probably the most important thing we look at during these reviews, showing the general area in general between Gayfer Avenue and Fairhope Avenue, quite a few streets west of Highway 98, otherwise known as Greeno Road, connecting to Section Street through Jan Drive. Staff does recommend approval of this with our standard conditions. We have not added any, but we'll highlight that locates can only happen maximum of 750 feet per day. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to discuss those. I believe we have someone from C-Spire here, if there's any questions from them.
All right, any questions for staff at this time? All right, thank you, Hunter. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I was, last time I was here, they mentioned about a sidewalk.
Oh, yeah, if you're coming to the microphone so we can record you. Thank you.
Sorry. Last time I was here, they mentioned a sidewalk project. It was along Gayfer Avenue, or Fairhope Avenue, one of the two, through there. And I just need to be sure we got those drawings.
Okay. We will help facilitate that. There's a sidewalk going along Blue Island project the city's in the middle of.
Yeah, those drawings were sent in about a week ago.
Okay. All right, good. Good deal. Good deal. Sure. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
All right, this is not a public hearing, but does anybody from the public have any questions or concerns about this? This is some fiber going down in the Blue Island area. Usually, people are pretty happy to be getting this. All right, in that case, commissioners, do you have any questions for staff or for C-Spire? If not, I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve UR 2316.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to approve as, I assume through staff recommendation.
Yes, pursuant to
All
staff
right.
recommendations.
I've
yes.
got a motion and a second to approve subject to staff recommendations. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. All right, second item on the agenda is SD 23.32, Planters Point, a final plat approval.
This is a final plat approval. This is also wrapping up the conditions of an MOP approval. So we had minor subdivision, an MOP, and then a preliminary plat approval for the lots. During the preliminary plat, we made the condition that this will resolve the MOP. Want to make sure we note that. The lot is on the screen. It's B2 zoning. The aerial is on the right. This is the state of the project today. This was actually taken this morning on the aerial. So I think this kind of says how stable the site is. There was some work tied in, and you can see the asphalt along 181 and 104. The plat, as you see in your packet, will be recorded, is on the screen. Just to touch base on a few details, water and sewer easements, there is water. Public water does fall within some private areas. The separate easement agreement is included on page 2 of the plat. The sewer is privately owned and maintained. Some of that infrastructure is what will be a public right-of-way agreement. You'll see a condition that says that cooperative maintenance agreement will be signed. We have a draft of that. Applicants has agreed to do that when we get that drafted, so that condition will follow suit. Aldot is in the middle of a lot of reviews. There will be a concurrence that the project is open for traffic. Everything is moving in that direction so that I believe the date of Publix opening is the 13th of this month. So I think everything is operating correctly, and we'll see Publix open. The conditions of this MOP that we're closing out here will also allow all the inline tenants to open as well. And then when conditions are done, we will sign the plat. Master drainage plan is there, site has been installed, and site is 90% stabilized. There is an O&M plan. There's one quick amendment to the checklist we've asked for. Landscape plantings have been installed. There are some that are seeing a little shock, so we're monitoring that and may be required from placement if they do not survive. Internal sidewalks give pedestrian access from 181 to 104. In your staff report, there is a conversation about a multimodal trail along 181. We met with applicants on Friday, and that was actually presented. So the easements that I provided was a worst-case scenario, a room we might need. We could reduce that easement if we had an exact plan. So Friday afternoon, we did receive this plan. That would parallel 181, approximately 10 feet into the property to the 27-foot mark, and connect to the north and south ends of the property. As I think some of you know, we have a project requested from Aldot to connect those intersections across the street. They have a mixed modal trail at Rockwell in the counter development. And we're looking at this intersection that's highly signalized, how we get those across, working through Aldot. So there is punch list items. There are a few punch list items before we sign the plats. So I believe we did get the as-built already. There's some core sampling from a small piece of the road. We're waiting on verification, and then minor repairs associated with the Aldot permit. So a lot of the work on 104 and 181 is under the Aldot bond. So typically we'd be a little hesitant to approve those at this stage, but since it's bonded, we are okay with those. Follow-up activities include recording of the plat and O&M agreement, a maintenance and guarantee agreement executed by the developer, and there is also a cooperative maintenance agreement, so we mentioned before, that will need to be signed. There was on the on the city council agenda this past meeting, there was also an agreement on deferring of funds. That should be executed by the developer as well. I don't think that has been to this date. So that's part of the closeout procedures. So we do recommend approval of case ASD 23.32 with 4 conditions. The final plat for this subdivision satisfies the MOP procedures for SD 20.34. Completion of all punch list items, completion of the follow-up activities, and add the pedestrian access easement to the plat adjacent to 181 as shown on the plan. So that would go to an easement that would be on the plat. If there's any questions, I can answer them. Frank Leatherwood's here from the engineer, and I believe we have quite a few folks from the development team that can answer any other questions if there are any.
Are there any questions for staff at this time?
I have a question for staff. Just regarding the tree, because we just dealt with that one tree that was so sad last weekend, last meeting. How much are we taking on with this we will monitor, like how long are you monitoring? I mean, I drove around, and if you just say the cedars are good, which they may or may not be, but they lose their leaves, so you can't tell. There's 6 or 7 trees. There's one that's fully dead. There's 6 or 7 that are half dead. Which they may just be in shock and they may come back, but how much staff time, what is our process, and is that something we're going to continue to say our staff will monitor things we've approved, and then how do we require them to change it afterwards?
So, it's a good question, and one we've kind of talked about on what gets bonds, what doesn't. Everything's in, so we don't need a performance bond. The requirement there is from the tree ordinance, and those landscape requirements are there into perpetuity. So, and we have had some, the car wash on Fairhope Avenue, I think, before I got here, you know, it, just a really excitable lawn care company, you know, cut shrubs down that required for screening. That's required, so,
Okay, so if any of these projects, somebody comes and cuts down the parking lot screening,
on private property screening, that is required. Now, that gets a little blended on street trees that are required in right-of-ways that we're gonna accept. Because we're accepting for ownership, we do want some more maintenance type bonds, we might do that. But from a strictly a requirement of the tree ordinance, that's required. So where you have,
so in cases like this where it's just, you know, okay, they look like they might be dying, they might not be, y'all just have a list of places you circle back by and?
we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just looking out for your time.
Oh, it's something that you'll probably have some conversation through the years, because I think as our horticulture department was clear to point out, with all the subdivisions we've approved, we've almost doubled their street tree maintenance that they're responsible for. So we're not out looking at the landscape unless we get a complaint about it, but we do have people that are looking at that.
Okay, you've got
Okay.
good complainers.
Yep.
And I'm one of those.
Yes.
I was also just, as a comment, glad to see, I was concerned that we had a condition of approval that we hadn't received and we were going to approve it anyway, so I'm glad I'm glad to say they submitted the landscape plan. That sounds like a precedent we don't want to set.
I agree.
All right.
Okay.
Any more questions for staff at this time? All right, thank you, Hunter. Does the developer have anything to add at this time? All right, I see the Thompson and Cave is here in case we have any questions for them. In that case, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. This is the northwest corner of 181 and Highway 104, where the new Publix will be. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about this project at this time? All right, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and turn the meeting back over to commissioners. Commissioners, we got staff and the developer here if you have any questions. If not, I will accept a motion.
I just had a quick question, and we may have reviewed it before, but tell me again what the pedestrian easement of the motor vehicle, what is that going to be composed of? Is it just asphalt, or is it a non-pervious?
It's a 12-foot. It will likely be a pervious surface.
Okay. Is that geared towards golf carts? I know that's what was presented.
That is the multimodal. I think if you look at the details across the street at the encounter, it's 12 foot wide. That allows golf carts, bikes, pedestrians in a public access easement.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Concerns? If not, I'll accept a motion.
I make a motion to approve SD 2332 with staff's recommendations.
I've got a motion to approve with staff recommendations. Do I have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Last item on the agenda is ZC 2307, 10 Tops at Gayfer. Just a quick FYI before staff gets going. This is the request for a PUD, and in these items, PUDs are actually ordinances, and only the city council has the legal right to approve an ordinance. So in this case, we will not make a motion to approve or disapprove. We'll make a motion to recommend for city council to approve or not approve.
Okay. Okay, the applicants are Ryan Creel and Vincent Booth, and they request a conditional annexation with rezoning to a PUD. The proposed PUD consists of 10 duplexes, ends up being 20 units. Applicants anticipate renting some of the units and also having the option to sell the individual units. It's approximately 5.31 acres and is located at 8437 Gayfer Road Extension. Developers Creel Construction, and Ryan Creel is the authorized agent. That's where we're looking. So this is a blast from the past. You guys have seen it before. It was an MOP case with SD 1940, and it was during the weird and wonderful time when there was overlapping jurisdiction. So it was approved by both the city and county in 2019, and at that time, it was unzoned in Baldwin County. Now it is residential single-family estate by Baldwin County. And we recommend the PUD zoning for annexation purposes. The proposed PUD represents the previously approved site plan that was seen in 2019. And the applicant has submitted building permits, civil drawings, stormwater O&M plan, and a landscape plan to the city. So this is what it looks like, the 10 duplexes. There is a jurisdictional wetland up there. And this right here is the dumpster I'll be talking about, but just pointed out on there. It's just one loop road. So they intend to build all 10 buildings with the 20 units in one phase. There will not be any accessory structures to the main duplexes. There is one loop road that's going to remain private. The garbage will be handled privately from a screen dumpster close to the entrance. And we have not received a photometric or signage plan, but they must conform with city regulations and standards, so we'll look at that when we get it. Water, sewer, and gas will be supplied by Fairhope, and Riviera provides the power. And again, that jurisdictional wetland in the southeast corner has a 30-foot buffer. This is what they are going to look like. Here's rear and front. They all look alike. That's what they look like inside. Your plan. Landscape and green space plans were previously approved in SD 1940. They haven't changed, so, and they're suitable. So we do recommend approval with the following condition, because this is an annexation, it goes to city council, so approved by city council, 2 printed and bound copies of the master development plan for the PUD shall be provided to us.
Any questions for staff?
I'm a little confused with the process. So you said we'll get that, they'll comply with regulations. Have the building plans been submitted and approved?
So let
Building
me give a-
permits have been issued.
Yeah.
It
So
was
let me-
issued before we pulled out of the ETJ.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, the permits have been issued for it, but it was originally permitted in the county before we withdrew our jurisdiction. So it was underway, and since we issued the permit, it stayed with us, and now they're coming back for
Right.
the annexation.
It
And
is
if I can
confusing.
give you a quick summary, maybe you'll, understand why we're here. It was approved by us as unzoned property in the county. SB 107 came along, the county then reviewed it, and then also on top of that, the county zoned this area. Ryan Creel, who couldn't make it tonight, came and said, I would like to explore the possibility, instead of renting all these out, actually turning these into condos. I think that would be the longer-term plan. We actually worked really well with the county to kind of decipher what that process would look like, being multiple approvals. And we came to the determination, the county said, well, it would probably be a quicker process through us, but more cumbersome because now it's
Yeah.
FE,
Right.
estate 80,000 square foot lots.
Right.
We would be a little bit longer, but easier since we're familiar with the project. So what the intent we're trying to do is not change any of the existing approvals. It's got permitted, it's under construction, but put it in a site plan and a PUD that approves what we've already approved, doesn't allow any new stuff, adding 20 more units without coming back to us. And also what we want to be clear about is we're not creating a development pattern in this area. So both the county and I
Right.
said, all things that happened as unzoned happened. We're acknowledging it states as it is, so we didn't want to come in supporting a multifamily type zoning
Sure.
that would create a development pattern. So that's what we're looking at. This puts it in a master development plan that will ride with this project as we approved it. That's the intent. If we want to have any conversations about anything else, we certainly can.
I was just, I understood that from this, and that makes sense. I didn't understand what the trigger would be for a photometric site plan to show if they are in compliance with the lighting.
We have received plans, and we had that conversation. They're not planning on putting any street lighting in. It's kind of a private drive. The only thing we were a little bit concerned about is if they put any attached to the building on the property line, but I don't think that's happened. So we'll be reviewing that at a permit phase. If we see anything that pops up during that permit, that we have the authority to ask for that under this regulation, I don't think we'll get it.
Okay, well then the tree protection plan was the other thing that was flagged. We need this. We asked for it, we didn't get it, but we don't know that we can ask for it.
Right.
So
Right.
I was not sure what to think about that.
And that one is, we have building plans within the city of Fairhope. The land disturbance plan is currently under construction is with Baldwin County. So
Okay.
our condition of the
So we can't take
MOP
over.
was
Right.
they would submit a tree protection plan with the land disturbance permit.
Right.
But we don't have
But we
that
didn't get it.
permit.
Okay.
They went
So
to
I
the county.
can't make that, what do I
Right.
attach that to? And Baldwin County's already released that permit. so
They've already
work is
released the
underway.
building permits.
Well, they're not gorgeous old oak tree. I mean, they're trees, but they're not gorgeous old trees. Okay, well then, so Baldwin County, and I'll stop talking in just a second, I'm sorry to be, but the other question is, it's kind of a mud pit right now, and like, there's no gravel construction entrance, it's just a mud pit and then some gravel further in. Is that all for Baldwin County to, because we're accepting something that looks like it's out of compliance with a land disturbance plan?
Right. And I can't explain the details of Baldwin County's permitting. If it was a land disturbance through us, we would certainly have BMPs and construction entrance. I do not know the details of their permits to answer that question.
Once they're annexed, can we enforce stormwater
We,
pollution
yeah.
protection?
We can't, I mean, since we have building permits, we have some regulatory authority to tell them, look, we need a proper construction entrance.
Okay.
And, yeah, we can do that. I mean, I can call Mr. Creel, and I don't think that'd be an issue.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes, I was-
we get that.
Good.
Yeah, I was kind of the wording on the, where it says, public hearing to consider the request of, Creel and Booth for conditional annexation to PUD. I didn't care for the wording, but as I've sat here for 10 minutes, I haven't thought of any better wording that I would change it
We
to,
actually
but it's-
struggle with those laws.
but it's just kind of
trying
an
to get
unusual
words.
request, so, I don't like what y'all do, but I couldn't do any better if
Right.
that makes any sense. Well, thank you. Any more
Yep.
questions for staff at this time? Is the developer here? Does anybody, I don't see anybody here from the developer. This is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing at this time. Anybody from the public wish to speak to this? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Gary Gover. I live at 300 Lincoln Street. I'm surprised by the absence of any visual or visible provisions for bicyclists or pedestrians, and no connections to nearby or immediately available facilities along the Gayfer extension. And there are a public school, there are restaurants, shops, stores, and so on in the area that are entirely walkable or bicyclable, but there's no linkage in this plan. Thanks.
Yeah, welcome to Baldwin County. That's what happens when out of the city limits. Yeah, I'm just saying that, it was in the county when it got approved, so we're just looking at the zoning, not the project at this point. But I don't disagree. Any other questions any other questions as far as the public hearing goes? Anybody else have any concerns, questions, want to discuss this item? In that case, I'll close the public hearing for ZC 2307 and turn the meeting back over to the commissioners.
One of the other things, make you aware, there's different building code requirements for a rental versus a condo where it becomes a property line. We've had those discussions with the builder, and I think he's going to go on ahead and make the provisions to do the 2-hour wall so that he can actually, if that's where they decide to go, the buildings will be built in a manner so that they can do that. So
Okay.
we did, kind of trying to think ahead, instead of having to come back afterwards and make modifications.
Well, and if that is the route, right now, the way the PUD is written, I think it gets, they have the option to condo this. We don't want this PUD getting in the way. However, if they do that, it will come back to the planning commission for a condominium plat. to show what common areas and things like that are. We've already reviewed all the, technically it'd be a pretty easy one, I believe, if this PUD is approved through the city council.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ZC 2307, subject to staff recommendations.
Motion to
Excuse me.
City
to
Council.
recommend.
Make a recommendation to,
City council.
yes, recommend, make a recommendation to the city council for approval. Is that right?
Yes.
That's it.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Got a motion to recommend approval to city council. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Chris?
With conditions?
With conditions.
Subject to the conditions.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? You know, one thing I think of what Mr. Grove said is, you know, we're doing in a lot of these minor subdivisions and areas that are out in the rural areas, we're allowing the right-of-way or an easement in lieu of sidewalks. You know, as fast as some of those areas are growing and as big as some of the apartments can come in, we probably ought to just start, you know, if there aren't ADA issues with elevations, just requiring sidewalks in areas where it's fairly flat, because, I mean, there are areas, I mean, look at this, you know, the 181 and the 104 area. I remember when Trey Cordy came just a year and a half ago, it's like, oh, that's out in the country, why do we need sidewalks? And now we're about to have 4,000 people out there when you add, you know, all of these, you know, apartments and houses and subdivisions up, that we probably ought to just start requiring the sidewalks now if there's not some unusual elevation area that might run into ADA where they have to be ripped out anyway.
So, and we did, I don't want you to think there's just a free pass. We did review this for compliance with city goals again, and had a long conversation about sidewalks. There's nothing on Gayfer, and there's wetlands all through the front of this property. So
Have to come out the side or something.
we did, you know, and when you get to the sidewalk on, with Booth, is it the north-south to the east?
Yes.
You know, it's,
Is
Yeah.
it Bishop?
Bishop.
Bishop.
Yes, Bishop.
Bishop.
That sidewalk is on the east side of the road, so even connecting there, it would be a long, and with all the drainage problems on Gayfer in that area, probably not the ideal.
Where's the nearest fire hydrant?
Somewhere, close by, within 450 feet, but we did look at that at the MOP.
Okay.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's
Be
nothing that could have
private.
been done about the dumpster?
It's going to be,
being at the
it's supposed to
entry
be
gate?
private.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's got to be screened, and they met that. Even our
There's no
zoning
last
ordinance
chance to
states that.
ask.
Yeah, when it got approved, it does now, so it
So we got
is.
it screened, but it's still,
And I think they voluntarily screen around even at the MOP.
okay.
All right. No further discussion. All in favor to approve, all in favor to recommend, subject to staff approval to city council, subject to staff recommendations, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Anything further? No old or new business? In that case, I'll accept a motion to,
Merry Christmas.
yeah, accept a motion to leave. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.